Another Taken King exotic. The Taikonaut looked to be a new and promising Titan exotic that could finally dethrone the bulletproof Ruin Wings, but the hype surrounding the Taikonaut quickly dropped off, and now it is hardly seen across all modes of the game. But why did the interest drop off? The perks never changed. There may have been some minor bugs with a few of the exotic perk features, but the main problem with the Taikonaut was that it was another Titan exotic. But before I start pulling apart the exotic, let's check out the perks. Again with the Taikonaut, you can reroll the interchangeable perks. I think by now everyone can guess what I'd recommend, but Infusion or better already for the second slot, and Inverse Shadow for PvE or Ashes to Asset for PvP. The exotic perk grants tracking for all rocket launchers, keeps your radar visible while aiming your launcher, and causes heavy ammo to drop more often. An exotic perk with 3 individual features is very rare, but how valuable are these features? Just quickly, none of these features tie into any subclass, so you're free to select whatever build you feel comfortable with. I'll put up my builds for all 3 subclasses if anyone's interested. So we'll start with the tracking given to all rocket launchers. So this would only be useful if your launcher doesn't already have tracking, so Yellowhorn and Truth are already ruled out. Dragon's Breath might be an okay choice, but it's not the actual rocket you want to track the target, it's more the napalm canister they drop underneath. For the most part, I'm content to just dumbfire the Dragon's Breath and time the canister release, so I wouldn't roll with an exotic that grants tracking just for the Dragon's Breath. So what else is left? There will be some legendary launchers that may be ideal, particularly if they have a solid blast radius and velocity stat already, and are then further improved with perks like hard launch, javelin, or heavy payload. Side perks like grenades and horseshoes and tripod may be interesting to stack with the tracking provided by the Taikonaut, but is that really worth your exotic slot? If you really like your legendary launcher that doesn't have tracking, and you find it hard to hit targets, then maybe try out the Taikonaut. So that only covers the first feature of the exotic perk. Use a non-tracking legendary launcher. Next is the radar active while aiming perk, or just the third eye perk. I really can't defend this perk too much. The amount of time you're aiming a launcher is incredibly small already, so do you really need to keep your radar active while you're doing it? Just a quick scenario. Say you're using the Taikonaut effectively by using a grenades and horseshoes legendary launcher without tracking. If you're aiming your launcher for an extended amount of time, and see that there are enemies nearby on your radar, is that really going to save your life? I mean, in PvP you hardly ever get rockets. And in PvE, if you're aware that you may get rushed by ads before you even start aiming your launcher, chances are the grenades and horseshoes perk will proc on the enemies right in your face and kill you anyway. I explained that pretty terribly, but my point was that aiming a launcher for too long of a time will more likely get you killed than if you just snap aimed your enemy when you see them. So all that's left is the increased heavy ammo drops, a poor perk in comparison to Ruin Wings, which gives you increased drops and more ammo in each drop. So it will depend on what you value more, but it would seem that the best feature of the Taikonaut is the increased heavy ammo drops, which Ruin Wing already does, but better. You know how I said at the start that the biggest problem for this exotic was that it was for a Titan? That's because it's directly competing with Ruin Wings. If you put the Taikonaut on another character, say a hunter, as they need all the heavy ammo perks they can get, suddenly the Taikonaut becomes a far more interesting exotic, but that isn't the case, so we need to try and configure a Taikonaut build with the Titan. The rocket launchers I would consider using with the Taikonaut would be Dragon's Breath primarily, even though I said otherwise earlier in the video. Why? Because Dragon's Breath already has surplus, and stacking that with increased heavy ammo drops, it starts to look like a more appealing loadout, and the bonus of tracking also wouldn't go unused. So that covers PvE, but what about PvP? Well, I wouldn't really recommend Dragon's Breath in the Crucible for multiple reasons, but using a solid legendary launcher without tracking would be worthwhile. A good example would be the Raid rocket launcher, which boasts good stats but lacks tracking. But still, if you're really after a rocket launcher that tracks in the Crucible, the truth is where you seek it. So that pretty much sums up the Titan exotic helm the Taikonaut. It's just an average variant of the Ruin Wings, which could have been so much more had it been available on another character. But anyway, I hope I was able to provide you with some insight into the Taikonaut. Thanks for watching, guys.